If you've ever had one of those friends who thrives on drama, you'll understand Monica. She wasn't just my best friend, she was my chaos. We'd been inseparable since college, the type of friendship where secrets felt safer with her than in my own diary. But if I was the cautious one, the steady one who thought twice before making a move, Monica was the spark, the firecracker, the one who told you to jump first and figure out where you'd land later. That night, we sat at my kitchen island like we had 100 times before. A bottle of Cabernet stood between us, half empty, the remnants of an ordinary Tuesday evening turned confessional. The kids were upstairs, finally asleep, and David, my husband of 15 years, was working late again. Or at least, that's what he said. Monica swirled her wine glass, watching the deep red cling to the sides like blood. "Sarah," she said, her voice casual but edged with certainty, "you're drowning in this marriage. You've been telling me for months how checked out he is. Honestly, you're letting him walk all over you." I sighed, tracing the rim of my own glass with a fingertip. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like that, but it hit harder that night. Maybe because she was right. Lately, David felt absent. Not physically, he was still here, sitting at the dinner table, sleeping beside me in bed, but emotionally, he was gone. Conversations that once flowed now sputtered like a dying engine. Our intimacy had dwindled to a routine peck on the cheek, if that. Sometimes, I'd catch him staring at his phone longer than he looked at me. I wanted to believe it was stress. His job had been demanding, his shoulders always tight with deadlines. But Monica wasn't buying it. "Stress, my ass," she scoffed, topping off her glass. "Every man is stressed. The difference is whether they let that stress make them forget their wife exists. And girl, he's forgetting. I mean, when was the last time he complimented you? Bought you flowers? Planned something for just the two of you?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. She didn't need me to answer. We both knew the truth. Monica leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was about to reveal some sacred secret. "Do you want to know the trick? It's simple. Tell him you want a divorce." I choked on my wine. "What?" "Tell him," she repeated, eyes glittering with mischief. "Men like David, they need a wake-up call. You tell him you're done, and trust me, he'll freak out. He'll beg, he'll promise the moon, he'll do anything not to lose you. That's when you'll know if he still cares." The words hung in the air, reckless and heavy. Divorce. I hated how the sound of it made my stomach twist. I wasn't trying to end my marriage. Despite everything, I still loved him. We had 15 years behind us. 2 kids, Emma and Jack. A house filled with memories. The first time we painted the nursery together, laughing as more paint ended up on us than the walls. The backyard barbecue where he burnt the burgers but saved the day with s'mores. The Christmas mornings, the inside jokes, the quiet nights watching movies. Could I really throw all of that away? "Monica," I started, shaking my head. "That's extreme. I don't want to leave him. I just want him to notice me again." She rolled her eyes, like I was a student refusing to grasp the obvious lesson. "Sarah, men don't notice until they're scared. Do you think he's just going to wake up one morning and suddenly remember you're the best thing that ever happened to him? No. You have to make him see it. Shock him. Shock him." The idea pulsed in my mind like a forbidden dare. I tried to laugh it off, but my laughter sounded brittle, like glass about to crack. "And what if he calls my bluff?" "He won't," Monica said instantly, her tone firm with certainty. "David's comfortable. Too comfortable. He thinks you'll never leave, no matter how little effort he puts in. Shake the foundation and watch how fast he scrambles to rebuild it. Trust me, Sarah. It works every time." Her confidence was intoxicating. And maybe that was the problem. After years of feeling invisible, her words offered a twisted kind of hope that I could still hold power in this marriage, that I could still make David fight for me. We finished the bottle of wine, and after Monica left, I lingered in the kitchen long after the lights were dim. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened window, tired eyes, worry lines that hadn't been there 10 years ago, a woman who wanted to be seen. Was this who I'd become? The wife waiting silently while her husband scrolled through endless feeds, the one who had to beg for affection with subtle sighs and long stares he never noticed? That night, I went to bed beside him. He was already asleep, his back turned toward me, the glow of his phone gone. I studied the slope of his shoulders, the steady rise and fall of his breath, and I wondered, if I really said it, if I whispered those words, would he roll over, panic, and pull me close? Would he beg me not to leave? Or would he let me go? I told myself I'd never do it. That it was just drunken talk, Monica's theatrics bleeding into my thoughts. But the seed was planted, and seeds don't stay buried forever. They grow. Days passed. Then weeks. And each time he brushed me off, each time his attention was anywhere but on me, the idea pressed harder against the edges of my mind. Finally, one night, it slipped out. Not rehearsed. Not planned. Just a quiet confession during another dinner eaten in near silence. I think my voice trembled, barely louder than the clink of silverware. I think I want a divorce. The room went still. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't even blink. Then, slowly, he set down his fork, wiped his mouth with the napkin, and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not shock. Not anger. Not fear. Just calm. Too calm. Okay, he said simply. And with that one word, I realized Monica had been dead wrong. Okay, that was all he said. Just one word. But it landed like a hammer blow, shattering the entire script I had written in my head. I expected David to argue, to reach for my hand, desperation spilling from his eyes. To say, no, Sarah, please, we can work this out. I can change. That's what Monica had promised, what she swore men always did when pushed against the wall. But my husband didn't flinch, didn't even raise his voice. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, folded the napkin neatly beside his plate, and looked at me with a gaze that felt both unfamiliar and unsettling. His eyes, normally tired, dulled by endless workdays, were sharp now, clear in a way I hadn't seen in years. My throat tightened. That's it? Just okay. He nodded once. Calm. Controlled. If that's what you want, Sarah, then okay. I stared at him, my pulse hammering in my ears. No, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to panic, to realize in that instant how much he stood to lose. But instead, he sat there like I'd just suggested we change the curtains or try a new restaurant. You don't even want to talk about it? I pressed, my voice rising. 15 years of marriage, 2 kids, and you just agree? Just like that. His expression didn't waver. If you've already decided you don't want this anymore, what is there to say? I felt my face flush, heat crawling up my neck. This isn't what I meant. This isn't how it was supposed to play out. The words tumbled in my chest, but pride kept them from escaping. If I admitted I didn't mean it, I'd lose whatever power I thought I'd had. So instead, I snapped, wow. Guess that proves it, doesn't it? You don't care enough to fight for me. Something flickered in his eyes then, hurt, maybe, or disappointment, but it was gone as quickly as it came. He stood, carried his plate to the sink, rinsed it, and set it in the dishwasher. All in silence. The mundane sound of running water made me want to scream. Finally, he turned back to me. I cared, Sarah. For years, I cared. But I can't be the only one fighting for this marriage. And then he walked upstairs, leaving me alone at the table, staring at the untouched half of my dinner, the words echoing in my head like a curse. The hours that followed were torture. I paced the kitchen, replaying every second of his reaction. My bluff had turned into something terrifying. He wasn't panicking, he wasn't begging, he was letting go. I tried to convince myself it was an act, some twisted attempt to scare me back. Maybe he's pretending. Maybe tomorrow he'll break down, apologize, and we can reset. That had to be it. But when I went upstairs, he was already in bed, lying on his side with his back to me, as if I were just a shadow in the room. No attempt to talk. No attempt to touch me. Just distance. Cold and deliberate. I lay awake most of the night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. Each exhale felt like a reminder. He wasn't fighting. The next morning, the pattern continued. He got up early, showered, dressed, and moved through the house like a guest staying in a hotel. No small talk. No casual, good morning. He poured himself coffee, grabbed his keys, and said only, I'll pick up Emma from practice tonight. That was it. My heart pounded as the door clicked shut behind him. I expected tears, maybe even panic for myself. But instead, I felt an icy dread settling into my stomach. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't sure I had any control over him anymore. When Monica called that afternoon, her voice bright and curious, I unloaded everything. So, what happened? She asked eagerly, like a teenager dying for gossip. I gripped the phone tighter. I told him. I told David I wanted a divorce. Her sharp inhale was followed by a laugh. And? Did he beg? Did he promise to change? No, I snapped, the word bitter in my mouth. He said, okay. Just, okay. And then he walked away. The line went quiet for a second. Then she scoffed. He's bluffing. Men do this. He's trying to flip it back on you, make you sweat. Just wait. He'll come crawling. But deep down, I knew she was wrong. There had been no hesitation in his voice, no game in his eyes. He wasn't bluffing. He was accepting. I hung up feeling more alone than ever. That night, when he came home with Emma, I tried again. How was practice? I asked our daughter, forcing a smile. Good, she chirped, dropping her bag by the door before running upstairs. David set down his keys and coat, moving toward the kitchen. I followed him, my heart racing. David, can we talk? He didn't even look at me as he opened the fridge. About what? About last night. My voice cracked. About what I said. He grabbed a bottle of water, twisted it open, and finally met my eyes. His expression was unreadable, but his voice was steady. You said you wanted a divorce. I heard you loud and clear. No, I hesitated, torn between pride and desperation. I didn't mean it like that. I wanted you to react. To show me you still cared. His jaw tightened. So it was a test? The shame in his tone made my chest ache. I needed to know if I mattered to you anymore. For the first time, his composure cracked. His voice rose, sharp with restrained anger. You needed to know? After 15 years? After kids, after everything we've built, you needed to throw the word divorce at me like some kind of experiment. Tears burned my eyes. He shook his head, cutting me off. Sarah, I'm done with games. I don't want to be tested. I don't want to be manipulated into proving my love. If you don't know by now that I've been here, working, providing, showing up, then maybe you never will. His words sliced through me, each one sharp, deliberate. And for the first time, I realized my bluff hadn't just failed. It had detonated something I might never be able to rebuild. The days that followed were like living in a house with a ghost. David was still there, his shoes by the door, his toothbrush in the bathroom, his jacket hanging on the same hook by the stairs, but the man himself felt miles away. He moved through our home with quiet efficiency, doing what needed to be done, but with no warmth, no laughter, none of the small gestures that had once made our ordinary life feel safe. I noticed it in the little things first. He stopped asking me if I wanted coffee in the mornings. He used to set a mug by my side, even if I was still half asleep, the steam curling like a small act of devotion. Now he made one cup. His. Nothing else. At dinner, he spoke to the kids, asked about school, practice, homework. But to me? Nothing. His eyes slid past me like I was part of the wallpaper. It hurt in ways I hadn't anticipated. I thought I wanted him to react, to prove his love. But his silence, his calm detachment, was worse than any angry outburst could have been. It was like he had already accepted life without me, and I was the only one still clinging to the illusion that we were okay. One night, I tried again. We were cleaning up after dinner, him rinsing plates, me drying them. The silence pressed down, heavy, suffocating. I couldn't take it anymore. David, I said softly, setting down the towel. Can we please talk? Not about divorce, not about fights. Just us. He didn't look up. He stacked a plate in the dishwasher and said, "What's there to talk about, Sarah? You made yourself clear." I swallowed hard, desperation clawing at my chest. I didn't mean it. It was stupid. I was angry. I wanted to get a reaction out of you. He finally turned, his eyes locking on mine. They were tired eyes, but not from lack of sleep, from years of something deeper. And what reaction did you want? For me to beg? To fall on my knees and promise I'd do better. Yes, I blurted out, then immediately regretted it. I needed to feel like I mattered. He shook his head slowly, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. If 15 years, 2 children, and everything I've done hasn't proven that you matter, then nothing I say now will fix that. I wanted to argue, to remind him of the times I felt unseen, but the words stuck in my throat. Because deep down, I knew he was right. Over the next week, I tried everything I could think of. I dressed up for him, put on makeup for no reason, hoping he'd notice. He didn't. I cooked his favorite meals. He thanked me politely but ate in silence, eyes on his plate. I even tried to initiate intimacy, reaching for his hand in bed, sliding closer. He pulled away gently but firmly, whispering, "Not now, Sarah. Not now." The rejection cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just about physical closeness, it was about the wall he had built, brick by brick, since the moment I said those words. Monica kept calling, but I stopped answering. Her voice grated on me now, too smug, too careless. "He's bluffing," she had said. "He'll beg." He wasn't bluffing. He wasn't begging. He was done. I started to see the cracks I had ignored for years. The way he had always been patient with my moods, my complaints, my constant comparisons to other husbands who seemed more attentive. The way he had let my words roll off his back, even when they stung. And now I realized I had mistaken his patience for weakness. He wasn't weak. He was strong enough to walk away quietly, without theatrics. Strong enough to choose peace over constant battles. And the worst part? He seemed lighter now. I noticed it one Saturday morning when he took Emma to her soccer game and Jack to a friend's birthday party. He came back humming softly, something he hadn't done in years. His shoulders weren't hunched. His step wasn't weighed down. It terrified me, because while I was unraveling inside, desperate to repair the damage, he was finding a new version of himself, a version that didn't need me. That night, I cornered him in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, scrolling through something on his laptop, the glow illuminating his face. "David," I said, my voice trembling, are you serious about this? About divorce." He closed the laptop slowly, setting it on the coffee table. His eyes met mine, steady and unflinching. "You said the word, Sarah." "Not me. I just listened." My throat closed. "But I didn't mean it." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Do you know how many times I've heard things you didn't mean? The digs. The comparisons. The little comments that chipped away at me? I let it go, because I thought you needed to vent. But this was different. You crossed a line." Tears blurred my vision. "I'm sorry. I'll do better. I'll prove it to you." But he only shook his head. "I don't want proof. I wanted a partner. And I'm not sure I have one anymore." That night, I cried myself to sleep, curled on the edge of the bed while he stayed downstairs. The sound of the TV drifted faintly through the floorboards, mocking me with its normalcy. In the darkness, I finally admitted the truth to myself. I had played a game I didn't understand. I had gambled with the word divorce, thinking it was just a card I could throw down to win back his attention. But instead, it had become the beginning of the end. And the more he pulled away, the more I realized something that chilled me to the bone. He might already be imagining a life without me. And worse, he might be happier in it. The silence had become its own language in our house. At first, I thought it was temporary, a phase he'd snap out of, a wall I could chip away at with enough patience and effort. But by the third week, I began to realize that silence wasn't a phase. It was his decision. His new normal. He spoke to the kids. He managed the household responsibilities. But to me, his words were clipped, utilitarian. "I'll be home at 7. Don't forget Jack's dentist appointment. Can you grab milk when you're out?" No warmth. No softness. And never once did he call me Sarah, with that old tenderness. I kept trying, though. I tried so hard it almost felt pathetic. I left notes in his lunchbox like I used to when we were newlyweds. He never acknowledged them. I planned a date night, booked a sitter, bought a dress. He declined politely but firmly, saying, "I think it's better if we don't." That crushed me, because it wasn't anger anymore. It was resignation. One evening, I found him in the office, sorting through a stack of papers. His expression was focused, too focused, like he didn't want me to see what he was doing. "What's that?" I asked, leaning against the doorway. "Bills," he said without looking up. But I saw the corner of a folder peeking out from the stack. The word attorney stamped in bold letters. My stomach dropped. "David," I whispered, stepping closer. "What is that?" He sighed, setting down his pen. For a long moment, he just stared at the folder, then at me. His eyes were heavy, filled with something I couldn't quite name: sadness? Or maybe finality. "It's what you asked for," he said quietly. "Divorce papers." The air left my lungs in a rush. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. No, David, I didn't mean it. I never meant it." His voice stayed calm, maddeningly calm. "You said the words, Sarah, and you can't unsay them. Not after everything else. I've been thinking for weeks, and I think this is what's best. For both of us." I shook my head furiously, tears blurring my vision. "No, it's not best. It's not what I want. Please, David, we can fix this. I can change. I'll do whatever it takes." He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "I've heard that before. After every fight, every time you tore me down with words you claimed you didn't mean, I heard promises. And then nothing changed. Do you know what it's like to feel like you're never enough in your own marriage?" The words sliced through me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I had spent months feeling invisible, unappreciated. But I hadn't realized he felt the same, worse even. The next morning, I woke to the sound of drawers opening. At first, I thought he was just getting dressed for work. But when I sat up, I saw him folding clothes into a suitcase. Panic surged through me. "What are you doing?" He didn't look up. "I'm staying at a hotel for a while." I scrambled out of bed, grabbing his arm. "No, you can't. David, please, you can't just leave like this." He stopped, finally meeting my eyes. His voice was steady but laced with something deeper: pain, maybe, or exhaustion. "I already did, Sarah. The night you said you wanted a divorce, something broke. I can't unhear it. I can't unfeel it." I clung to him, sobbing. "I didn't mean it. I was stupid. I was desperate for you to notice me. I thought if I scared you, you'd fight for me. Please, don't do this." His face softened for the briefest second, and I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd put the suitcase down. But then he shook his head. "I did fight, Sarah. For years, I fought to make this marriage work. But I can't keep fighting alone." He pulled free and zipped the suitcase. The sound was final, like a door slamming shut. The kids noticed, of course. You can't hide something like that from children, no matter how hard you try. "Where's Dad going?" Emma asked that night, her big brown eyes brimming with worry. I forced a smile I didn't feel. "He's just taking a little break, sweetheart. He'll still see you all the time." But inside, I was crumbling. Because I didn't know if that was true. The days after he left were unbearable. The bed felt too big. The house felt too quiet. Even the kids noticed the shift, their laughter dimmer, their questions heavier. I tried calling him. Sometimes he answered, but the conversations were short, practical. "I'll pick up the kids at 5. I'll drop them off Sunday night." Never anything personal. Other times, he didn't answer at all. I stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Every corner of the house reminded me of him: the chair where he used to read bedtime stories, the spot on the porch where he drank coffee on Sundays, the shirts still hanging in the closet, faintly smelling of his cologne. I thought the emptiness would break me. One evening, I decided to fight for him one last time. I drove to the hotel he was staying at, my hands trembling on the wheel. When he opened the door, he looked surprised, but not pleased. "Sarah," he said softly, stepping aside. I walked in, my eyes darting to the neatly made bed, the small suitcase in the corner. It was sterile, impersonal, yet somehow it suited this new version of him, detached, untethered. "David," I began, my voice cracking, "I'm begging you. Please don't give up on us. Don't give up on me." He sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his face. For a moment, I thought I saw conflict in his eyes, that maybe he wanted to believe me. But then he spoke. "Sarah, I didn't give up. You did. The moment you used divorce as a weapon, you ended this. I can't live wondering if the next time you're upset, you'll throw that word at me again. I need peace. And maybe, without me, you'll finally figure out why you were so unhappy in the first place. Tears streamed down my face as I dropped to my knees in front of him. I'll change. I swear. I'll go to counseling, I'll do anything. Please, just give me one more chance. He reached out, his hand brushing my cheek. For a second, I felt that old spark of connection, the warmth I'd been starving for. But then he pulled his hand back, his eyes filled with sorrow. I believe you want to change. But I can't stay and wait for it. I've lost too much of myself already. And with that, I knew. He was gone. That night, driving home alone, the reality finally sank in. Monica's reckless advice, my desperate bluff, my pride, it had all led to this. I hadn't just tested his love. I had destroyed it. And as I pulled into the driveway of the house we had built together, the house that suddenly felt more like a museum of what once was, I realized something I would carry with me forever. I hadn't lost him because he stopped loving me. I lost him because I forgot how to love him back. The weeks that followed blurred together, a haze of tears, empty rooms, and paperwork I couldn't bring myself to sign. The word divorce used to be a threat I never thought I'd have to live with. Now it was a stack of legal documents sitting on the kitchen counter, staring at me every morning like a cruel reminder. I avoided them at first. Let them collect dust while I convinced myself David would come to his senses. That he'd wake up one morning, realize he missed me, and come back home. But the days kept passing and he didn't. Instead, he came by only for the kids, punctual, polite, distant. Every time I opened the door, my heart would leap like a trapped bird, hoping he'd look at me the way he used to. But his eyes were steady, calm, almost businesslike. He smiled at Emma and Jack, hugged them tight, asked about their day. Then he'd glance at me, give a nod, and leave. It was the nod that broke me every time. Not anger. Not hate. Just nothing. As if I were already a stranger. One Saturday, he came to pick up the kids for the weekend. He looked different. His hair trimmed, his beard shaped, wearing a shirt I hadn't seen in years, the kind he used to wear on our early dates. He looked good. Too good. And then I noticed something else. His cologne. Not the one I bought him years ago, but a new scent, fresh, clean, undeniably different. My heart plummeted. Big plans? I asked, trying to sound casual as I handed him Jack's backpack. He paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. Just taking the kids to the park. Then dinner. But the way he avoided my gaze told me what I didn't want to hear. There was someone else. Or, at the very least, he was open to the idea of someone else. The thought gutted me. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to remind him that I was still his wife. But I had no right anymore. I had handed him freedom the night I uttered those 4 reckless words. I want a divorce. The final blow came in the form of an email from my attorney. David has signed. He is moving forward. Please review the settlement terms at your earliest convenience. I stared at the message for hours, numb. My hands hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't bring myself to reply. Signing those papers felt like hammering the final nail into the coffin of everything we had built. But not signing didn't change the truth, it was over. When I finally did sign, my hands shook so badly the ink smeared. After the divorce was finalized, the house felt heavier than ever. Every corner held echoes of him, the worn spot on the couch where he used to sit, the dent in the pillow beside mine, the faint outline of his shoes on the mudroom floor. But the silence was the worst. Not the silence of anger or tension, but the silence of absence. Emma and Jack adjusted faster than I expected. Kids are resilient, they said. But I could see the sadness in Emma's eyes when she asked, "Why doesn't Daddy live here anymore?" And the confusion in Jack's voice when he whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" I reassured them over and over, but inside, the guilt consumed me. Because in a way, it was my fault. I had gambled with their father's love, and I lost. Months passed. Seasons changed. I tried to move forward. I threw myself into work, into parenting, into anything that distracted me from the emptiness. But nothing filled the void. Every so often, I'd see David in town, sometimes alone, sometimes with the kids. And once, I saw him at a cafe with a woman. She wasn't stunning, not the kind of woman who turned heads in a crowd. But she was smiling, and he was laughing, really laughing, the way he hadn't in years. I froze outside the window, my heart breaking all over again. He looked lighter, freer. Like a man who had finally shed a weight he carried too long. That weight was me. He glanced up then, our eyes meeting through the glass. For a split second, I thought I saw something flicker, pity, maybe, or nostalgia. But then he turned back to the woman, his laughter resuming, and I realized I was no longer part of his story. Nights are the hardest. That's when the memories come. The good ones, the ones I took for granted. The way he used to hold my hand in the car, thumb brushing over my knuckles. The way he tucked the kids in, making up silly bedtime stories until they fell asleep giggling. The way he looked at me on our wedding day, eyes full of a love so deep I thought it would last forever. I had all of that, and I threw it away chasing a reaction. I thought he'd beg. Instead, he walked away. If there's one lesson I've learned too late, it's this: words matter. Once spoken, they can't be taken back. And the word divorce? That's not a card you play to win attention. It's a weapon. And once unsheathed, it cuts deep, sometimes deeper than you can ever heal. Now I live with that cut every day. The papers are signed. The house is quiet. The kids split their time between us. And David? He's building a new life, one where my presence is nothing more than a memory. As for me, I'm left with the silence, the emptiness, and the haunting realization that I lost not because he stopped loving me, but because I stopped showing him I loved him. And no matter how many times I replay it in my mind, I can't undo the moment I chose to listen to a friend's reckless advice instead of listening to my own heart. It cost me my marriage. It cost me the man who once would have done anything for me. And now it's a cost I'll carry for the rest of my life.